It's just all about love and life and living in freedom. That's what it's all about for me now.
Welcome to the Rich Spinster podcast. This is Alexis. And listen, today I want to talk about something very close to my heart, and that's Black women. Not only am I a Black woman, but I love Black women. And this week has been a week where I've thought a lot about what it means to be a Black woman and my own Black womanhood, while at the same time seeing a story about a young Black woman who was 22 years old who took her life on her birthday. I saw that story making its rounds on social media. And I also know a Black woman who is in the throes of mental illness right now. And thinking about her has just really made me think about Black women's mental health in general. Now, let me be clear and say, I am not a mental health professional, nor am I pretending to be one. What I am discussing here are my thoughts, feelings, and experiences only. And I was thinking about these two Black women this week, and I was so sad and also grateful because I am not a person who has suffered from mental illness, but I am a person who's experienced compromised mental health. It's specifically around anxiety. Those feelings started for me in childhood. I am a very sensitive being, and most people who know me really well know that. But I think if you would ask the majority of people who have engaged with me, or maybe who have worked with me, they would not classify me as sensitive. But I was always a very sensitive being living in a world that did not teach me as a Black girl what to do with these sensitivities. What I was taught by observation and by authority was essentially to keep my feelings to myself. I was shown what it was to be a Black woman from the Black women that I observed. And what I observed were women who were strong, who were successful, who were holding the communities up on their shoulders, who were creating and supporting families, sometimes more than their own. But having someone to talk to about my feelings, it just wasn't a thing. It just was not a thing, not just in my family, but in the families that I knew of. I don't know a lot of Black families that sat around and talked about their feelings. And I don't know a lot of Black parents at that time who focused on their children's emotional health. Because let's keep it real, our mothers and grandmothers and aunties, they were too busy making sure that we all survived and teaching us how to survive, the basics. You have to be strong. You have to get your education. You have to do all of that. But your softness, well, I always was taught that my softness didn't really serve me. And I was taught that by the way that I was treated when I exposed my softness as a Black girl. My softness was never handled with care. And so I had to create a wall around that softness so that I could not be harmed. I just knew that I was kind of on my own emotionally in this way, that I had to protect myself because the world was going to be tough. Not only would the world be tough, Blackness would be tough. Black womanhood would be really tough. I went to an all white private Catholic school with my brother. And there was another brother sister pair who were Black at the school. And the brother was in my brother's class, but his sister was much older. So we weren't hanging out. So I had no Black girlfriends at all growing up. I think I was also a little bit at a deficit because I wasn't raised in a Black community, nor did I attend an all Black church. I lived in the country and I had no Black friends. I was really excited about going to a public school because I wanted to have Black girlfriends. I felt as though if I had black friends, I would find a girl who was kind of like me. I would find another black girl who is tender. I would find another black girl who liked to read, who listened to all genres of music, who wanted to be my friend. I wanted to find another black girl who was into musical theater. I wanted to find another black girl who liked Liza Minnelli. Now, listen, I never found her because that was a little different. But I was really excited about finally having a black friend. The only black girls that I ever hung out with were relatives who all lived out of town. So I didn't really have a relationship with them. And to my godmother's grandchildren. Going to public school and engaging with black girls was very difficult for me because I was not accepted by them at first. All of the black girls that I tried to befriend at school, they were always saying to me, "You sound like a white girl. She thinks she's a white girl. She thinks she's cute." No, I did think I was cute and I was, but I felt the rejection from them deeply because I deeply wanted relationships with black girls. I eventually forged those relationships and I was happy with those and I enjoyed those black friendships for what they were in high school. But I knew that I felt different and I didn't know if I necessarily felt different or if we were all living the same lives and just not talking about them. I started reading self-help books when I was in high school. And it is not as though I was really trying to figure out some deep psychological mystery. I just wanted to know what to do with all the things that I felt inside and couldn't express. So I went on that path of self-discovery. You couldn't tell me anything about life. I was reading it all, everything that Oprah talked about. Every book that Oprah suggested that was self help related, I was reading it. I started recognizing the ways in which my Black womanhood prevented me from experiencing a range of emotion that everybody else seemed to express freely. I felt like I was choking on my silences. All the while, everybody on the outside looked at me as a free spirited, confident, bold person, and I was. But there was a part of me that was not free, and it was the most tender part of myself. And it wasn't free because I just never found safety with another Black woman to express it. The Black women I knew were educated. The Black women that I knew were smart. They loved their families. They loved their friends. They lifted up the community. They were dependable. They were all of those things, but I cannot describe any of them as tender. I was never shown that side of them. And in fact, I never saw that side of any Black woman really. Outside of deaths, I can't think of seeing another Black woman crying when I was growing up. I never saw it. So, what did that tell me about my own emotions? And so, as I got older, I was seeking to not only find a sort of sisterhood with Black women that allowed me to be free or where I felt safe, I was just looking to feel safe within myself with my own feelings that had been repressed for so many years. By the time I got to college, though, I started befriending people. I wanted to be vulnerable with them. I wanted them to be vulnerable with me. But at the same time, I was still trying to deprogram all the shit that culture had taught me, that my goal was to be a strong Black woman. And what did that mean? Because I surely hoped that strength wasn't determined by all the suffering that I could take. I wanted to find peace and love and safety with Black women that I had never known before. And I started to find that as I found myself more. That wasn't easy, right? Because I'm having to figure out who I am while still operating within this wall, still feeling that I wasn't safe enough to tear it down. But could I navigate it? Could I crawl over that wall when I found another Black woman who felt as if she could be my sister? I had great relationships with Black women in my 20s. I found a great circle of queer Black women who I immediately cleaved to. They were queer in every way that queerness could be, from sexual orientation to being an artist, to being socialists, to being writers, performers. It was a great time and a great group of people who allowed me for the first time to start to feel open and free around other Black women, which is difficult to do when Black women have been the source of your trauma. And so, not only was I determined to love them, I was also determined to heal myself and heal from the trauma. The way I experienced Black women parenting was very harsh, too harsh for my sensitive being. So, my exposure to Black women not taking care of my tenderness started very young. But very few Black women that I engaged with in my early life did I experience that tenderness with. And I needed that tenderness. I needed that tenderness more than anything, more than I even recognized. I'm so grateful for the Black women that I have experienced in my life who gave me that. Or when I think of like my darkest moments, I would have wanted Black women to be there for me, to support me, to hold my head up when I was down. And I didn't really have that until until my mid to late 20s is when I really developed those stronger relationships with Black women. But really, when I really developed a stronger relationship with myself and understood that my tenderness is a part of my strength, that my sensitivities are the best of me, I wanted grace without my emotions being laughed at or without me being looked at as weak. I wanted grace and everyone seemed to have it, so I figured I better give it to myself. The fact that I can expose myself and be vulnerable, I consider one of my greatest strengths now because it was one of the things that I feared the most. Because what happened when I was vulnerable? It usually didn't turn out well for me. And as a child who had a tender spirit, I felt it. And so I had to dig deep and figure out my fucking emotions. I never really expressed any sort of emotion to any other Black woman except for joy. What's up, girl? You good? I'm good. I only expressed strength to other Black women because I thought that that's all they were too. And then I thought that can't be. That can't be. I'm not by myself here. And what I realized is just as I was not given grace, I really wasn't giving other Black women grace either. I was judging them based off of my trauma. I mean, you know what you know when you know it, right? And then there was a time in my life where I was doing well, everything was going great, and then suddenly my world fell apart. And I suffered with anxiety for about 2 years. I was having trouble sleeping. I was just going through a hard time. And what struck me when I got through that was that nobody even knew it happened, except for very few people. I was engaged with lots of Black women at that time who we said we were friends, and none of them knew I was suffering. And so I think to myself, were they suffering too and I never noticed? Are we all just performing Black womanhood in a way that we think helps us when it really harms us? Black women are going through internal chaos all while looking amazing, all while going to get their hair braided, all while excelling at work, all while suffering. And they don't understand it because we make it look so good. And on top of that, there's this cultural pride of being unbothered that is so bothersome to me. I would see these Black women act like they are so unbothered by everything. And I'm like, no, I'm bothered. And I'm going to say that I'm bothered. We got way too many social media unbothered bitches out there. We have way too many sisters who are only focused on performing fabulous instead of being whole. We got way too much of that. Even in the workspace. I have been very intentional in my professional life when it comes to Black women. I've always made sure that I extended myself to Black women, that they could confide in me at work because I understand that we need each other. A lot of Black women haven't been vulnerable with Black women before. And so I always like to let other Black women know that you can be open and honest and vulnerable with me. I will not hurt you. But I've been hurt. I have definitely been hurt by other Black women in a professional space. I've encountered Black women in the workspace who feigned friendship with me and stabbed me in the back, or Black women in the workspace who were jockeying for a position and therefore felt somehow that I was a threat to them. I've experienced Black women in the workspace who were just very cold, but there are Black women out there who recognize me and I recognize them. I've seen so many ways in which Black women have had compromised mental health and they go through so much alone. A lot of Black women don't have a circle of loving, but emotionally mature women to help them through anything. Some people just hang out with a bunch of women that don't even like them in the first place. But there are Black women who have circles of love, who they can trust, who they can have a good time with, who they can have a good cry with if they need to. Those women are out there. And if you don't have them, seek them out. Be a safety net for other Black women. I am very determined to be that for other Black women. But I'm also very protective of myself. Like I am not going to, be in a circle with a group of women who don't like me. It's important that we are wanted when we walk in the door somewhere, that people are genuinely happy to see us. There are circles of Black women where the love is real. Find that circle. Start your own. Let me tell you, it's really hard without it. What bothers me the most is I feel like so many Black women suffer from chronic loneliness. And that is because no one has ever told us to prioritize that soft part of ourselves before. Now, they've told us to center men. A lot of Black women have been taught to put everybody and everything before themselves. And they suffer because of it. Yeah, we're fabulous. Yeah, we're successful. We carry a legacy on our backs. But this place called my back can get tired. And then it's the question, are other Black women a safe space for you or not? I had to think about that because I hadn't experienced that before. And it is not as though I thought like white women are a safe space for me, but like as a Black woman, I felt lonely. But I didn't see a group of Black women as safety. When I have been around Black women that I didn't feel safe around, they weren't safe with me either. I'm very intentional now with how I love other Black women and how I talk to other Black women and how I talk of other Black women. When I meet another Black woman, I want to be the Black woman for her that I needed. That is always my intention. What does she need from me? What does she want from me? And what do I need from her? What can we give each other? Oftentimes I'm in spaces with other Black women, whether it's a sorority meeting or whatever it is. And I may not feel that. I may be just operating within the energy that I'm operating with. But when I'm one-on-one, when we have time to love each other, and when I feel as though this is real, I want to open myself and expose my internal world. And I want her to feel the same. I just remember being so happy when I found that group. That group of of Black women who I could connect with in love, and we talked about love and our feelings, and it was just amazing, and I needed that, and I was so happy that they existed. As corny as that may sound to some people, I knew how I needed to be loved, and I was just so thrilled to find people who knew how to do that. I remember one time my friend, she was like one of the first really close Black girlfriends that I ever had. And I remember we stayed up all night long just talking about our lives and like what we thought we would do when we finished college and all of those things. And she was the very first Black girlfriend that I had who said, "I love you." I'll never forget it. We were sitting in her apartment, and I remember we were sitting on the floor because she couldn't afford a couch at the time. But I was so impressed that she had enough money to get an apartment. on her own. And we were just talking all night and we were laughing, and she was sharing so many intimate things about her life and trusting me in this moment. We were together 3 a.m. and I'm hearing her deepest, darkest secrets. We were lying on the floor. All the lights were out. We were just talking. We had the blankets, everything set up. She grabbed my hand and she touched my hand and she said, "I love you, girl." And I said, "I love you too." That was the very first time that I'd ever said that to a Black woman who wasn't like my cousin, who wasn't related to me. And I remember how good it felt and how special that friendship was to me because I felt emotionally safe. It's important for Black women to feel emotionally safe with each other. And sometimes we just don't know how to. We don't know how to feel emotionally safe with each other because we don't fucking know how to feel emotionally safe with ourselves. The fuck? We're out here just swinging and battling for our lives. But let me tell you something. If we don't take care of our inner world, fuck the outside world. Because the inner world will be the one that will do us in. No, Black don't crack, but it crumbles inside. And that's what happens when you neglect your emotional needs. There's so many Black women who are just suffering inside and nobody sees it because they're successful, because they have everything. Y'all don't know that Black girl magic is often Black girl tragic. And it doesn't have to be. Trust me, sis. If you are vulnerable, there are Black women who know how to take care of you in your vulnerability. There are Black women that you can confide in. There are Black women who you can trust. If you're going to come correct and know that you are safe here. And hopefully, when other Black women engage with you, they know that they are safe with you as well. You know, and a lot of Black women who do have mental health issues don't get help for those mental health issues because they don't want to be looked at as crazy. That crazy is eating them up, though. And what is crazy in a world that is out of its fucking mind anyway? So these two stories of Black women this week, it's just really been on my heart heavy because I know that they're not the only ones. And when I struggled, and I didn't even have any other stuff going on, I was just not okay. And the world saw me as okay. And it's interesting too. It's like when you are a Black woman and you do express vulnerability or you do go through something that is really difficult, the world still treats you like ain't shit happened. Know how to show up and be there for each other, Black women, because other people aren't showing up and being there for us. And you need other Black women in your life to love you down. I want Black women to know this. If you've been bereft of safety when it comes to other Black women, please know that your favorite auntie is out there, but maybe you haven't met her yet. Know that you can find a cousin out there who is not jealous of you and she is always in your corner. You can find that Black woman with the heavy, earthy voice to speak life into you and to remind you of the things that you have forgotten. There are Black women who will come to you with softness and who will say, "I love you, sis," and show you what that looks like. I think of Toni Morrison when she says she was a friend of my mind. She gathered me, man. The pieces that I am, she gathered them and give them back to me all in the right order. It's good, when you have a woman who is a friend of your mind. Be that for other Black women. Let it start today. Thank you for listening to the Rich Spinster podcast. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, and Spotify. Watch the podcast in its entirety on YouTube, and you can follow me on Instagram at Rich Spinster. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I will see you soon.